The best Super Nintendo game. Alright, real talk, the Super Nintendo has one of the best libraries of games ever, such as Contra, Super Castlevania 4.
Best SNES game? SNES. Oh, I'm gonna have to go Castlevania. I was a big fan of Castlevania. Definitely on that one.
Super Mario RPG, Super Mario World. There's a lot of excellent games for the console, but my favorite, when I think of the Super Nintendo, one game comes to mind, and that is Megaman X. Excellent music, crazy replayability, unlockables, secrets, great boss battles. The game is perfect in every way. The platforming feels excellent. The shooting feels great. The best game, in my opinion, probably ever. And definitely for the Super Nintendo, Mega Man X.
The best Super NES game. Probably The Lion King. Yeah. I don't know why. I really had fun playing that game, but it didn't matter how many hours I put into it, didn't matter what age I started playing at, didn't matter how, just didn't matter. I never beat it. I haven't played it in years, but I just remember the last time I played it, I got so mad because I just couldn't beat it. And I have no idea why. Apparently it's just impossible for me to beat that game, I guess. I don't know. It's just weird.
Best Super Nintendo game was not really much of a game, but it was Mario Paint. All because of the music mode. You had the 3 presets, and you could speed that shit up, and they had that weird baby kissy sound noise that you could pick. I made an entire song that was just, it sounded like people moaning. It was awesome, and you could speed it up. And they had that fly game. That game was fucking crazy. I didn't even have the mouse, and I still tried to play that shit. That shit was impossible to play with a controller, because the damn fly swatter thing moved like this. And it's like, oh, let me slap you a few times. But, oh, dude, the hand cramps from having to hit the fucking big giant boss fights for like 300 times. Cramps for the... I still... Look at this. Still sit like this. Still can barely move.
Listen guys, this is a really tough decision to make. Ben just asked me to name my favorite game for my favorite and first gaming platform, like a lot of you, I would assume. However, out of all of the games that I've played, I've managed to come up with one that I find the absolute best. And that is a game I never got to play for the physical platform itself. It's called Star Ocean. This game was never released in the US, despite having massive success in Japan. It was developed by Tri-Ace and published by Enix. Written and programmed by the same exact guy who did Tales of Fantasia a year earlier, Yoshihiro Gotanda. This is one of the first games to boast a 48 megabit cartridge with an extra chip in it called the SDD-1. This game had voiceovers.
Captain, we've just picked up a huge amount of unidentified energy.
Where?
This game had an action battle system with its own competent AI, though actually not very competent if you ask me. Special points earned from battles to customize skills like cooking and a variety of other things, including, must I note, an affection system, which not only affected your endings and how the game went forward, but also how a certain player or PC acted or reacted during character death or what have you. There could be a rage mode, there could be immediate healing. It was very comprehensive. But the reason why this was my favorite game was because it practically breaks genre. I mean, you're taking sci-fi elements, adding in fantasy elements, and then throwing in more crap where with romance simulation and action and more puzzles. I mean, the fact that this game didn't have an overworld is the only thing that made it disappointing.
You know, the Super Nintendo, it's one of my favorite game systems of all time. So when it came to deciding what was my favorite game on the system, it was a really hard choice. I love many of the games on the system, Super Mario RPG, Donkey Kong Country, the Megaman X series, But when it came to deciding which one was my favorite, it took me a while to figure it out, but after much thought, I finally decided on Earthbound. Earthbound is an amazing RPG for the system. It's probably one of the most groundbreaking RPGs of all time. It had several things in it as far as the story goes and gameplay mechanics that no other RPG did for the time. For starters, most RPGs were kind of in a medieval setting or some kind of mythical, magical setting, and Earthbound was a little different. It went for a more realistic modern day setting, which I thought was a really interesting twist on an RPG. So you're playing in a modern setting rather than your traditional mythical setting that most RPGs go for. It also had some really neat mechanics where if your level's high enough and you're fighting a weaker enemy, you have insta-kills instead of having to go through the battle to gain the XP and do all that grinding. You just walk up to them, and if you're stronger than they are, you instantly kill them. And I think that's a really neat idea. And all in all, Earthbound just is a wonderful game. It's wonderfully crafted, and there's even some other things that are included in Earthbound that RPGs of today haven't even attempted to do. And it's really funny because sadly that RPG wasn't really accepted by many at the time due to its high price tag. It included a user's guide when the game came out. It was like a big strategy guide. It came in a huge box, and I believe it was $100 when it came out. So a lot of people kind of passed on it, unfortunately. So a lot of people passed up on a really good game, but now more people are aware of it, and it's got a cult following, and it's probably one of the best RPGs ever made.
Now let's hear what you viewers had to say. UltraMatt01 lists his 3 favorites: Super Metroid, Kirby Superstar, and The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. 3 games nobody mentioned in this video, which was pretty odd. Pushan Bacharya agreed with JD Mulletman, saying that Super Castlevania 4 is the best Super Nintendo game. The Undertaker for Life says Donkey Kong Country is the best. Ryan says hands down the best Super Nintendo game is Super Metroid. The Cuban Kyle lists the game nobody even mentioned in this video, Earthworm Jim. And lastly, Platinum Triforce says the best Super Nintendo game is ActRaiser. You guys had some great choices, and if you want to be featured in the next The Best video, leave a comment telling us what your favorite movie license game is. That's a video game based off of a film. Make sure you comment, rate, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.